Certified Sommelier Beverly Crandon, and welcome to the Wine Down, where we talk about all things wine and make it highly approachable. And on today's Wine Down, in preparation for March 13th, we're going to talk about Riesling. March 13th is International Riesling Day, and it celebrates the first written mention of Riesling back in 1435 in Germany's Rhine region. Now, poor Riesling. Riesling is a grape that is oftentimes misunderstood. Its past taints its future, its history taints who it is. And so on today's Wine Down, I'm going to take 5 common myths about Riesling and bust them right open. And if you stick around long enough, at the end, I'll also give you some tips on how to pick the right Riesling for your palate. All right, let's just jump right into this. So myth number 1, all Riesling wines are sweet wines. Wrong. The reality is Riesling is a very versatile, very flexible grape. It can be made dry, off-dry, semi-sweet, fully dessert wine sweet. Ice wine is made from Riesling. Sparkling wine is made from Riesling too. People make that. In Germany, if you see something like Trocken on the label, that indicates it's dry. You'll also see the Predikat levels on there too. So that's where you see things like Auslese, Baron Auslese, for example. And the Predikat levels, it just tells you how ripe the grapes were at harvest when they were picked. It doesn't automatically translate to the sweetness on the finished wine. But I think what's important to note is that in Germany, 48% of the production is dry wine. And that's up 31% from the 1990s. So likely you're going to be facing a dry Riesling when you encounter it. Like everything else that's happening with in today's world. People are looking at lifestyle decisions that consumers are making, and you're seeing more and more people produce the dry styles of Riesling. Myth number 2, if your Riesling is sweet, it must be cheap or bad. Couldn't be further from the truth. Listen, as a matter of fact, some of the world's most collectible and age-worthy wines are sweet Rieslings coming out of Germany. Your Auslese, your Baron Auslese, your Trocken Baron Auslese, your Eiswein, those ones. Those are so age-worthy. People oftentimes, too, don't realize the amount of work that goes into making late harvest or sweet wines where you're looking for noble rot. There's a lot of labor involved where you're picking the individual grapes specifically to make your sweet wine. You're looking for a certain concentration. Even though I'm saying that these grapes are going to be high in concentration and very sweet, what people also should realize is that Riesling is a grape that cannot hide its acidity. So even though you've got these really ripe grapes that are very fruit forward, very sweet on the palate, they've got a lot of acidity. So they oftentimes will come up being very balanced. And it's that acidity that makes these wines so age-worthy, and just something you want to collect and grow and see how it transforms in the bottle. So no, if your Riesling is sweet does not mean it's cheap or bad. All right, now we're at myth number 3. Riesling is just cheap student wine. Let me explain that one. So this one comes from the 70s and 80s, so Riesling's history. When export markets like North America, we were flooded with cheap bulk Riesling out of Germany. So think Blue Nun, Black Tower. It was so readily available. Because of that, because of the price point and its availability, that was, for a lot of people, their first encounter with Riesling. Which is why today, when you go to pour someone a Riesling, they put their hand up and say, no, it's too sweet. They're thinking that. That is the history, that is the reputation that Riesling had from the 70s and 80s. And because of its availability and its price point, it became that wine that you would see at parties, and it also became that wine that students could afford who were on a budget, hence the nickname student wine. Get it now. Today, what we should all know about Riesling is that you've got a wide array. You've got the fun, fresh, everyday drinking Rieslings, but you also have the serious single vineyard expression of Rieslings, the ones that you do want to age and have it sit in your cellar for quite some time. But listen, what I will say about that 70s, 80s Riesling, and that reputation that still carries it with it. That's why you find like some of the most sought after single vineyard expressions of Riesling are still underpriced because of that history. So I guess in that sense, I guess we win as consumers. Myth number 4, all Rieslings come from Germany. No. What I will say is that Germany is the spiritual place for Riesling, especially out of the Mosel and Rheingau. But truth be told, Riesling thrives all over the world, and great expressions coming from other cool climate areas. Take a look at Alsace, France. They generally make powerful dry style Rieslings. If you go to Austria now you're looking at precise mineral-driven Rieslings. Australia, Clare and Eden Valley, they'll produce, limey, high acid, but fun, fruit abound Rieslings. And then take a look at my own home here in Ontario, Niagara region. We are known for producing wonderful cool climate Rieslings and also making ice wine from Rieslings. So explore more than just German Rieslings. There's some wonderful expressions all around the world. Myth number 5, that petrol nose on my glass of Riesling is a flaw. No, that does not mean your Riesling is flawed. That petrol or kerosene type nose that you get when you're smelling your Riesling, that comes from a compound called TDN. And as Riesling ages and develops more in the bottle, that TDN becomes a bit more pronounced. I also notice it more so when the grapes grow in a sunny site. Not a warm site, but sunny site. Very different. But the sunny sites, I find the grapes from there come off and they give you a bit more TDN. Low to moderate levels of this TDN, or petrol, whatever you want to call it, it's a classic sign for Riesling, right? That's the acidity, that nose, that's what makes Riesling Riesling, and then a bunch of other things. And you know what? It adds complexity to the wine too, right? Because it starts here and goes down to our palate. So olfactory leads the way. So it starts there, adds some complexity. Some people I know aren't fans of that nose, but that does not mean it's a flaw. Just because you don't like it, that nose does not mean it's flawed. If you want to find your Riesling with a little less TDN, I would encourage you to drink younger vintages. And if you know where the grapes are grown and you know it's not from a sunny site, that's also going to be a hit too. But that nose, that TDN, petrol, kerosene, not a flaw. It's one of the characteristics of Riesling and one of the reasons why I love it so. So let's talk about how to buy the Riesling that you want for your palate. If you're looking for a drier Riesling and you're in the German section of your wine store, you want to look for something that says Trocken on the label that represents dry. If you're looking for a sweeter Riesling, look for words like Auslese, Beeren Auslese, Trocken Beeren Auslese, Eiswein. Those are indications that that's the sweet wine there you're going to have. But as we talked about, Riesling comes from all over the world, right? And so Trocken may not be on my label for that Riesling from Clear Valley. So my tip to you is this. Look at the ABV, the alcohol on the label. And if it's anything 10% or less, guaranteed you're going to have some sweetness on the palate. 12% or more, likely going to be dry. So that's your other hint in terms of, do I want a dry Riesling or a sweeter Riesling? Look at the ABV, and that will help you every single time. So that's it. We just went down a deep dive on Riesling. I'm sitting here with a bunch of Riesling bottles from around the world in front of me. I think I'm going to have some Riesling after. But anyways, March 13th, go out, grab yourself a bottle of Riesling. You know what? Grab yourself 2 bottles of Riesling, one from Germany and one from someplace in the New World, and do a side-by-side comparison. Geek out. Let me know all about it. Any nuances you found in your Riesling from Ontario versus the Riesling from Germany, let me know. I'm curious to see it. I know I will be drinking Riesling on the 13th. So cheers.